Mahomes at bay.
The Tampa Bay Bucs, Super Bowl 55.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Bucs Banter podcast. I am your host, Collin Hallboom, and here we are on what is not a victory Monday, not even close, actually. But we're still showing up to work with our lunch boxes to talk about the catastrophe, as I named it in the title, that was Sunday Night Football at Raymond James Stadium. It's really hard to picture how it could have gone worse for the Buccaneers. Like, their dynamic offense puts up a 0, injuries to more important players than I can count on our team at key positions. Of course, the biggest news being Chris Godwin out for the remainder of the season. He'll undergo surgery soon, I'm sure, to repair a torn ACL. Initially, it was reported it was a sprained MCL, which just made matters worse for me personally, for anyone who supports the Bucs, I think, because it was coming out today that it was a sprained MCL, and he was running on the sidelines because he's an animal like that. And sure enough, it was a torn ACL. So prayers up for Chris Godwin. Obviously, he's playing under the franchise tag this year. A lot of people are making a big deal of that. Like, I don't see how this has any effect on, first of all, his market as a top-notch free agent wide receiver, or the Bucs' interest in retaining his services. I think that is completely unchanged, especially when you consider he's likely to be ready for training camp, or at least close to it. Just my thoughts. Anyway, sorry, guys. Just to introduce my co-host, by the way. I'm not here alone. This isn't confession. I'm joined by Scott Capron, and we welcome back the illustrious third member of this trio, Bono's Ball, Bodan. Tell the folks why you've been away, man. Where you been?
We back. Yeah, so Friday, a few Fridays ago, we had a little boy come into this world, so pretty exciting. Mom and baby are doing really well. Came out on 8 pounds on a dot, 54 centimeters long. So I don't know. Line up D1 schools because he's coming for you.
Dion Bear too is the name. Dion Bearyard. What a name.
Yeah,
too good.
Big fella.
Can already see him in the Pac-12, just terrorizing quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Coming off the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing, man. So glad to have you back. Obviously, I mean, pulling back the curtain.
I know it must have been tough. Just alone with the two of you guys, and then this game happens to top it off. I had to come back.
Well, how about the trauma that Collin has here? He just went into it, started talking about franchise tags before any sort of introduction or anything. Like, oh my goodness! Like, let's get this guy a stretcher and some Tylenol. I don't even know.
Intros are supposed to be my specialty too. You know, I love the intros. I just lost my mind again. I blacked out. Just started talking about it.
Hey man, that game is going to have a lot of people talking, and probably had a lot of Bucs fans doing similar things all Monday today. So no worries. Wow.
I didn't think we were going to start with the Godwin injury, but looking at your tweets
I think you
earlier,
have to.
Yeah, I guess you have to. But yeah, looking at your tweet earlier, Collin, this is an injury that the Bucs could absorb, right? Like, of any position group to lose its star, arguably their best wide receiver, if not their second best, and very neck and neck, in my opinion, with Mike Evans. I think you guys have the depth as long as Mike Evans does actually come back as well. You get Antonio Brown back, and hopefully you get some better games out of Tyler Johnson at the end of this year, and maybe Scotty Miller can get a little bit more separation down the stretch. But yeah, it's just heartbreaking for a guy on his contract year, franchise tag, just to kind of even have that little whimper of doubt out there when he enters the market, right? So yeah, he doesn't deserve that at all.
I mean, I would be in favor of the Bucs just extending him right now. I saw that tweet. I retweeted it. Someone had suggested that. A few people have. I mean,
Kind of like a
Godwin's
Dak, Jerry Jones and Dak situation.
yeah, and if there's anyone I'd want to do it for, it's Chris Godwin. Again,
doubt.
ultimate teammate. Dude's ridiculous. I think all Bucs fans, you realize it even more when you lose them, and you just think of the absence that's created on that offense. And of course, it's a star-studded offense. And like you alluded to, Bo, like I tweeted out earlier, I think if there is any team who is positioned to sustain losing a player of Chris Godwin's caliber, it is the Buccaneers, especially with Antonio Brown coming back. The young receivers, not just yesterday, but like have been disappointing, like big time.
Yeah.
Like Tyler Johnson, I expected with any sort of an opportunity to really take off. Hasn't happened this year at all. I was like embarrassed by him yesterday, just not fighting at all, showing no fight to get open. And then like Scotty Miller, I think for whatever reason, it's more opportunity based. I think we've seen enough from Scotty Miller to know he is capable. But again, he's not a slot receiver either. Tyler Johnson would be more natural to fit into that role. But again, he's been terrible. Like those young receivers really let the Bucs down yesterday. That was their golden ticket, their opportunity. Another guy like Jalen Darden has not looked good.
Oh my God.
Someone had tweeted
even on the kick returns, on the punt returns, like he doesn't. I just don't see that burst.
I mean, I see a little bit of the burst and the speed, but he looks like a junior varsity high school guy who's like scrimmaging against D1 athletes or like college players. Like it's like that drastic of a difference that his size is showing up. He just looks like a little boy.
It shows. It shows.
He looks like he's wearing a Halloween costume and his shoulder pads. Like it's just. Shout out to everyone who's watching live right now on either Bucs Report, Sports Talk Florida, Richard Mahoney, Donna Sinai, Nathan Autenton, all in the comments, Corey Hall. We're going to try our best to kind of use your comments this evening to guide our conversation because it's a bit of a whirlwind in Bucs land. Go ahead, Scott.
No, I'm just going to say, and just to play devil's advocate on the, of all the spots they could lose someone. I agree. Of all the spots, technically they have receivers, but Godwin might have been the best one, or look at how productive he had been this year. Absolutely insane numbers. He almost had 100 catches. I didn't realize that he had 98 catches after that injury, over 1,100 yards, I think, in 5 touchdowns. What are you going to get from Antonio Brown coming back? Right. So now, like a lot of the offense, I feel like is kind of resting in him be stepping in and being really, really good after this weird pause and like time away from the team and all of that, right? So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I don't know. It's like as much as the narrative has been all season. All right, if there's anything we can do, we can lose receivers. Man, you don't want to lose Chris Godwin. Like you really don't. And I know last night was a perfect storm with Evans and Fournette and all of that, and like they just looked awful. But he's so good, man. He's so good, and like you said, like Colin, I think you mentioned on Twitter, great teammate, blocking downfield, does everything, and I think it's an absolutely huge loss. And in the NFL, no one player basically, unless it's your starting quarterback, is like a death nail for your season. So of course it's not that, but this is really tough. And I think if people had Green Bay and Tampa kind of in the top in their own tier as of right now, slightly ahead of your Rams and your Cardinals, etc. Hard to make an argument against putting Green Bay a notch ahead as of right now.
Yeah, I unfortunately agree.
Yeah, the one thing I would say just at the head of that, Scott, kind of agree with everything you said there. The one thing I'll give a B, and he's shown when he first joined Tampa and when he joined New England, he has that instant chemistry with Tom Brady. So I'm not expecting any type of fall off or any type of warm up from AB. Like he's going to slide into that, and I have very high expectations for like the amount of output that you'll see from him. I don't know if you can't replace Chris Godwin, but I think AB patches some of that hole.
Yeah, fair enough. And he's going to have to, right? So, but the Brady Brown chemistry is like obviously real. a real thing. And man, is it ever going to be in the spotlight now coming down the stretch here?
Yeah, the important thing to not lose sight of is like Antonio Brown's health. Like he obviously sustained a pretty
Yeah, sure.
significant leg injury, foot injury. So who knows where he'll be at, just in terms of his actual physical health, let alone
Yeah,
being
totally.
able to potentially fill a different role. I mean, Godwin was so imperative playing that slot position as well. He's just an absolute zone killer. So like he's a guy who has incredible chemistry with Brady as well, just at a different position. So, I mean, AB is certainly capable of playing in the slot, but he's generally had the majority of his success on the outside. A guy who started practicing this week, who I've always loved, is Justin Watson. He's a receiver out of Penn years ago, and he's been primarily a special teamer. But there's been times when he's been thrust into the starting lineup, and I found him to be really solid. So I'm not putting anything on his shoulders, but I am saying he's a guy. Rashad Perriman, obviously, is a guy who's had similar success as well in spot starts, but also that's an outside receiver, right? So in terms of filling Godwin's shoes in that slot position, which is such a crucial role in this offense, and ultimately like a check down for Brady, where you can kind of settle into a zone, and it's not always a predetermined location where he's going to find that slot guy. It's more knowing where to settle into the zone to make yourself open. Takes some time to develop that chemistry, and that was improving dramatically even in the second half of this season. Like over his last 3 games, Godwin had like 35 catches or something stupid. Like he had that 15 reception game, like double-digit reception games, and he was on pace to do that again last night. So, I mean, and then, that's just we're only talking Chris Godwin because obviously the nature of that injury is just so frustrating, and with his contract status and all that stuff. But again, hope they re-sign Godwin, and I hope he doesn't even really test the market. But Evans also went down with a hamstring. Levante David, no one's talking about that injury. It's a foot injury.
Yeah.
That sketches me out. Hamstring for Fournette and Evans, that sucks, but at least like you have an idea of what it could be. Of course, there's varying degrees.
Could be
Foot
nagging,
injury,
right?
Foot injury.
Yeah.
It's like you pulled a muscle in your foot. Like that's a little sketchy to me.
Yeah, well, it's more likely a bone, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Not to be Joe Buck, maybe it was chilly. Like maybe it was just a little cold there.
Yeah, and that's why he was shaking his foot around, right? I think that's how that goes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we're talking Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Levante David, and Leonard Fournette all exiting with injuries. The Buccaneers were already without Jamel Dean, and Winfield ended up being like a scratch, which was an injury I wasn't really aware of throughout the week. So I think that happened in practice. Just really, really unfortunate. And then so this loss all but concludes the Bucs can't finish first in the NFC, which was a hope, and obviously the Packers. And I missed the end of that game. I turned it off when the Packers went up like 12 or whatever that score differential was. I was like,
they went up 2 touchdowns in the 4th. Yeah.
So that's when I shut it off. And then I had no idea of what came to be. But we don't have to talk about that yet because the fact is the Packers won and have an absolute stranglehold. It's really interesting what could happen in the NFC still. Dallas is actually catapulted up to the 2nd seed based on their I believe it's based on their success within the division. So Bucs losing 2 to the Saints. Bucs losing 2 to the Saints alone hurts them there. So they're behind the Cowboys.
I think it's conference record.
Conference?
Yeah, which would make sense because each division, their winner is obviously in one of those top 4 spots. But regardless, it's a total cluster at the top of both conferences. But yeah, to get back to the game, I mean, obviously they didn't have much, but Brady didn't play well. A couple turnover-worthy throws. The offensive line didn't play well. I thought Brady was throwing under pressure or just trying to get rid of the ball. How many times? And the line had obviously played great all season. This must have been one of their worst games so far, right? And then, man, to not score is almost unfathomable, right?
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
it's so hard to do, and it's just that weird versus the Saints. And there's I don't know, are there bounties out there from the New Orleans perspective? But obviously they got the job. It was just such a strangely entertaining game for some kind of like dark reasons. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. 9-0 is truly bizarre.
Weird. Yeah, very. Yeah, Scott. I don't know if a lot of people know this. Scott is our score guy. He always he lets us know when a score hasn't happened before, and this is not that it hasn't happened before, but this was just a weird, rare game. To hit on the offensive line, I think for me that was the most disappointing part of this loss. They didn't have an injury to blame it on. They just got beat. Cam Jordan was a menace all night, really. Just getting in the backfield. And then their secondary, not to put it on the offensive line, just trying to give the Saints a little bit of props. Their secondary was like covering everyone so well all night. Like there was not a lot of windows for Brady to fit the ball into, and they were closing extremely fast when he did let it go. So tip your hat to them, I guess. But yeah. They were playing a very aggressive. They weren't playing like a 7-6 team or a team that didn't really have long playoff aspirations. They were playing like we could be in the Super Bowl this year, at least on the defensive end. So, but yeah, going back to the offensive line, I tweeted at Collin at the Bucs banner account. Just I can't believe that Tristan Wirfs is giving up another sack to Cam Jordan, a sack fumble at that, right? So it's just weird to see that unit struggle that much.
Yeah, I agree. That was the most disappointing for me as well. I mean, that the receivers obviously was an issue, but you got a bunch of backups. Like they were moving the ball still. At least they didn't have success in the red zone. They didn't even get to the red zone, but they still were moving the ball to some extent. They were at least converting third downs when Godwin and Evans were in there. So regardless, what I'm getting at is I agree that the offensive line play was just putrid, and Alex Kappa was just getting absolutely worked. Like a couple of those, it looked like Wirfs, but it was actually Kappa because it was like a stunt and they were getting crossed up. So, but I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, that one's not on Wirfs. That one's not on Wirfs. I'm like, who fucking cares, man, at this point? Tom Brady is getting hit. Like, it's a unit. Like, I'm past the whole like Wirfs PFF grade, unstoppable. I get it. But like, Alex Kappa is a guy in a contract year as well. We talked about Godwin being in a contract year. He's in a contract year. And he's been pretty solid because we haven't been talking about him. He's kind of that forgotten man within that offensive line front. And he got his lunch handed to him yesterday. Donovan Smith was getting worked, reminded us all of the old Donnie Smith that Bucs fans he's been so much maligned in Buck Nation. And yeah, even like Marpet and Wirfs had their moments as well where they got taken advantage of. So all around a really horrible effort by that group. And I think, they've been getting their due lately. They've been getting lots of notoriety from unbiased, like national media members. And it came back to bite them. Maybe they were feeling themselves a little too much. Maybe they underestimated their opponent. They thought they could just walk out there and block the shit out of a stampede of elephants or something, because that's what it looked like they were dealing with last night. And it was really just a couple aging pass rushers.
But it was all of it too, right? Because then Brady doesn't have the usual guys to get the ball out too quickly and all that. So then maybe he's, lacks some chemistry, takes an extra beat with the ball, and then other games where that isn't a sack or that isn't a pressure, it becomes a sack. Now, I thought he hung on to the ball a few too many times, and no, the offensive line wasn't good. And like that was like Bo said, the biggest takeaway. But just a perfect storm of shit for that entire offense, basically, right? Like, it's as bad as it can get.
For sure. And Bo, I do. Sorry, Scotty. I just want to say I do like what you said about the Saints DBs, because I know Bucs fans hate to hear this name, but Marshawn Lattimore was God. He was a dog last night.
Yeah. Both him and Cam Jordan were just absolute menaces. If it was 5 yards out, it was like, holy, Lattimore's all over this, and he just comes out of nowhere. Gardner Johnson was all over everywhere. I think he led the Saints in tackles as well.
Gardner Johnson all over Twitter always the next day with these memes of his antics. I'm so sick of it. But yeah, like even Marcus Williams, like their whole secondary. You were right; they do deserve some credit. But those backup receivers had no chance with that unit playing like that, because they really just couldn't create separation either. So whether it's more blame on them more credit to the defense. Doesn't matter. They couldn't. You're right. It was a perfect storm, Scott. Like everything. O-line wasn't working. Brady wasn't getting it out quick enough. The play calling didn't seem to in any way assist them. The injuries, just all of it piling up was just an absolute nightmare. The last Saints podcast we did, I titled "Nightmare on Bourbon Street." So it's just such a familiar, unfortunate thing. And I tweeted before the game, like I expected the Bucs to win, whatever, but weird shit happens when the Bucs play the Saints.
Yeah. And that's about as weird as it can get. And then, but the crazy part is it's not like the Saints put them away. It's like if Tampa could have found 10 points, you know what I mean? It's not like it was even a 17-0 win, which would have kind of constituted a beatdown or whatever, right? But this is like, oh my God, just figure it out, and you're gonna somehow win this game. But whatever, man. Like you lose weird games in the NFL every year. Buffalo lost to Jacksonville. Like the Cardinals literally lost at Detroit this week. You know what I mean? The Rams have some weird ones. The Packers lost 38-3 to this Saints team, right? Yeah. I mean, different because Jameis was playing, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not to just like throw your hands up in the air and like, oh, like it doesn't matter. But really, we see this all the time.
It's been a crazy year in the NFL. Like, yesterday also was a wild fantasy.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. Yeah.
And like the implication, like so that also, so I was like 90% to win my matchup in my fantasy league, and we're not going to be talking fantasy. I'm just discussing another angle. And so all I needed was like one. Naturally, I'm heavily invested in the Bucs. I needed one of Tom Brady, Chris Godwin, or Gronkowski to have like an okay day. One of the three. The others could have done zeros. Of course, they all lay an egg. I mean, Gronk had 11 targets and only 2 catches. Gronk didn't look himself either, and maybe he depends more on those other receivers creating separation as well. I mean, I don't know how micro we want to get with it. Maybe it was just an off day. He didn't quite look
off day. Yeah.
He didn't look into it. Like his little, he was doing his little in out cut. And I was like, really, bro? Like, is that?
Yeah.
I feel like you can, they're like, oh, well, that's Gronk. He can just get open, and he can. And we've said that just in unorthodox ways, but it just didn't look like he was fully into it. That one pass down the sideline in his hands, that was just an unfortunate situation. He wasn't able to track the ball. That was a dime by Brady. Hadn't thought about that for a while. Feels like that was last season.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. And just to go on what you're saying, honestly, with the way all of Sunday went and just how screwy the week in general had been with the schedule and the Saturday game being postponed and then various other games, it's like you almost knew something weird was going to happen in this Sunday nighter, right? Like I'm a bit of a, like, from a subjective, like, weird kind of, I don't know, vibe standpoint, I'm kind of a believer in when the day is progressively weirder that we're going to see an even weirder game on Sunday or Monday night. I know they're all separate and obviously not related, but it seems like there's something to that. I feel like that with a college football Saturday as well, when there's crazy upsets going on, and then you get this highly ranked team in prime time. I always find, like, I don't know, just weird stuff goes on, and it's like it's a bad word right now, but like a virus that gets spread throughout the sport, and it's wild. And then we get a 9-0 game where the Bucs don't score. Like, that's what was on Sunday night after all this, and like they can lock up the division, they can take a stranglehold on the NFC, all this stuff, and it's just like Brady could also further his like put it like one hand on the MVP trophy, right? And just none of that happened.
It was I just Googled what was the moon last night, and it says we are currently in the full moon phase. So I don't know if we had a full moon, but it feels like something weird. Of course, the Voodoo Saints pull some shit like that. But
to be fair, you've always been a big lunar guy, so I'm almost shocked that you hadn't looked that up earlier.
Yeah, I had to take my pictures down from behind me of all the astronomical signs and such.
Yeah,
to set up this studio here. Yeah. That's not true, folks. I don't even know what I am. I think I'm a Leo, if that's even related. Nathan Audison.
What a classic Virgo thing to say.
Maybe I'm Virgo. Nathan Audison says, what's Lenny's status? So we updated you on the Godwin injury because that's the update we received, the unfortunate news there. In terms of Mike Evans, Levante David, and Fournette, They're all going to undergo further testing and imaging. So that information hasn't been released. Bruce didn't mention that at his press conference. But speaking of the running back position, the only other thing I want to mention as it relates to this game, and then we can move on, is I found it peculiar that Rojo rushed for 48 yards in the third quarter alone, and he looked sharp. And then they went to Keyshawn Vaughn and never went back to Rojo. I found that really peculiar.
Yeah, you know who else found that peculiar? Tom Brady. Like, when he was throwing that ball to Keyshawn Vaughn, he was just like, as it left his hand, he's like, he's not catching this. Like, what's going? Like, this guy is so bad.
Yeah. Brady's body language last night, you could just see the frustration. You guys obviously saw him getting into it with Allen, the coach of the stand-in interim head coach for the Saints on the sideline.
As great as Brady is, he's a little like, if it's not going his way. You know what I mean? Like, he can be anyway.
Yeah. I think most competitors are. Like, I feel like Jordan do some weird shit. Like, that's whatever. But yeah, you're not wrong. Corey Hall says because Rojo wanted out. Interesting. I wasn't aware of that. If that's like a legit report, Corey. If you got more info on that, it says he wanted out on 3rd and 1. I'll tell you where Rojo does want out, and that's out of bounds, because it happened again last night on his first carry. He scampers out of bounds. God, I hate that. I know Bucs fans hate that. Twitter lights up. It's just ridiculous, Rojo, man. Like, I don't have, he's going to be a free agent. He's not going to be a Buccaneer after this season, folks. So
no chance.
If your team Rojo, say bid your farewells now. That being said, I'm like ready to throw on my Rojo jersey if Lenny's out next week and watch him rumble for like 114 yards and be super dynamic looking. But a little too finesse, Rojo, I think, especially when you get to see Leonard Fournette rumbling along. It really makes you realize the physicality of the position and how it can differ depending on the style of back.
It's almost hard to believe they play the same position.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When you see the two, like, and how stark a difference is when one is in versus the other, right? Like, Fournette seems like he needs to get hit, kind of like Andrew Luck back in the day, like just to get in the game kind of thing. Yeah. Rojo has zero interest in that. Yeah. Zero. It's not even. I'm not even necessarily criticizing it as much as just like, yeah, that's what's going to happen with him.
Yeah. He just wants to be faster than everyone out there. And if he's like, I'm not going to get there before that guy, I'm not even going to try.
Sorry.
He hits the hole so hard. It's frustrating. Like, he really is a lightning bolt in there. It's just a complete mirage, though, when you judge the whole body of work.
You know how? Sorry, you said that, Bo. Just about. I'm just gonna like quick tangent here. I've watched the last 3 full Steeler games for punishment, I suppose. Najee Harris really looks like he's like tough and he tries and he's trying to get the extra yards and all that, but he really looks shocked that he's not just faster than everyone and that he's not running through 6-yard holes every time like he did at Alabama. You know what I mean? Now, I know we've killed the Pittsburgh offensive line and the whole thing, and this isn't a taking a running back in the first round thing. I promise. This has nothing to do with it. But you can tell he's like, oh, and there's another guy there, or oh my, like this screen pass just gets immediately blown up because of how athletic everyone is on the defense, right? Like, it's when you see these superior athletes in college and you think it's just automatically going to translate, it's just not how it works out all the time, right? It's interesting to see, and I've really noticed that. Like, you can almost see it in his body language, and Rojo was pretty similar. Like, Najee definitely a more physical runner, but Rojo was just, anytime I turned on a USC game, he seemed like he was running in a complete open green field. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's just funny to compare the two.
Especially that position, evaluating that position, like, when you look back and watch college tape at some of these running backs, and you're just like, how can you even get a fair evaluation on them? Because like you're saying with Rojo, you just see green. Like,
yeah, okay, he's fast. Yeah, you know he's fast. Yeah, but I don't know, a little bit different.
Yeah. So in terms of, we've talked about the injuries, hard not to. The Buccaneers and Bruce Arians, I think everyone who has a head on their shoulders could see read the tea leaves that Antonio Brown and Mike Edwards were going to be welcome back after this suspension. If they were going to be cut, that was going to happen already. The timeliness works out with the Godwin incident. Arians addressed it today, and he got a little feisty when he was asked and he just said he doesn't give a shit what anyone thinks. It's about what's best for this team. And he also alluded to, like, people were bringing up the fact that when Antonio Brown was first signed to the Buccaneers, Bruce Arians said, if he slips up once, he's gone. So a lot of people were bringing that up, and Bruce, I like how he answered it. He was like, yeah, that was well over a year ago. A lot's happened since then, including a Super Bowl, and he's earned my respect since then. That's not just like some eternal timestamp. Like, he's done enough. And my opinion on it all is this, because there's not much to say about it, but I think with this Buccaneers team, you have so many level-headed veterans who are leaders and well-respected guys on the team. You got Sue, you got JPP, you got Mike Evans, you got Tom Brady, like Leonard Fournette, Godwin, just all these guys.
Lavonte David.
Thank you. Lavonte David, maybe the most important one of all of them, at least if I was weighing opinions. And I am sure that Bruce Arians double-checked with each of those guys, all the ultimate, like the captains of the team, before making any decision. And if all those guys are signing off on AB sticking around, then that means he hasn't been enough of a distraction, and I am fine with it. So that's just where I stand on that, and I'm excited to have him back on the field, hopefully healthy, so we can see how he slides in and how this Bucs offense is going to adjust. Cushy schedule.
Keep selling your soul, Boom. Keep selling it. I'm just kidding. I agree. If they're cool with it, then what are you supposed to do, right? So,
I think, like, with that, they're at least both vaccinated now, and I think there's probably a lot of that has gone on in the league. The fake vax cards. If it's not like AB and Mike Edwards are the only ones, I bet you that's happened quite a bit. He was just dumb enough to put himself in a position where he could be fail at bribing his chef or whatever he needed to do, and be lured into that information going public because he was so stubborn or naive. I don't know.
Quick thing. Did you guys see what Penny Hardaway said about Memphis basketball and the vaccines by any chance? Sorry, 30 seconds. That's all I need.
I missed
honestly.
it.
Start of the year, he said about 90% of his team was vaccinated. They're supposed to play a neutral site big game against Tennessee this Saturday. An hour before the game, it gets canceled because it turns out that between everyone who's actually able to play on the Memphis team, only 4 people are vaccinated.
Oh, God.
He had told reporters that it was about 90% at the start of the season. When they asked him on Sunday about it, he said, "Oh, everyone was just talking about doing it. I just assumed they did it, and didn't really follow up." What? Pardon? Come on, man. That's
your head coach now, Penny.
That's what, at best, like completely not in control of your program, and at worst, just like a lie, right? Like, is that where we're at there? Oh man. Anyway, just so they're not going to be able to play for weeks because if these guys aren't vaccinated, they got to get rid. Anyway, sorry. Just on that vaccine train, I saw that like a couple hours ago. I listened to something about Penny. I was like, oh man, don't say 90% unless you know it's 90%. But anyway.
Yeah. I was trying to watch that game too. And I was like, why is it not on? Like, it just I didn't look into it any further. But.
Dude, it was the lead ESPN game at noon to start off like this amazing day of college basketball. And it's like, oh yeah, no. Tennessee scrimmaged at the arena because their fans were there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's bad. It's really bad.
So, I mean, this is your last chance. If you have anything you want me to pour my emotions out anymore, otherwise, I think I'm pretty well checked out in terms of talking about this game and in terms of what's to come for the Bucs. All I'll say, though, sorry, go ahead, Scotty.
No, I'm just gonna say, well, if you wanted, obviously injury is super worrisome, but if you just the performance, if you can separate it and just say, hey, that's super weird, then be okay with it and know that you're playing Carolina next week, who are
the Jets after that.
Yeah, and then so it's like, the cure for what ails you is coming here. You just got to go out and play better. And yeah,
and it's that this light end of the season, like at this point, I don't care anymore about the seeding. I'm just gonna let that take care of itself. I want this to just kind of kickstart this team. And similar to what happened last year, right? They turned a switch on and shit went batshit crazy, and the team just was clicking. And the one positive to take away is, and I know they're playing Taysom Hill in a very inept offense, but the defense looked much better last night, at least. A lot of those players looked a lot better.
Yeah.
So if that unit could get healthy, and I mean, like the injuries have just been so ridiculous for this team that they've dealt with. It's actually like, I'm not even surprised. It's just out of control. But if they can use these last 3 games as kind of a tune-up to get there, for Stella to get her groove back, then hopefully the tea leaves will fall as they may, and the Bucs end up with some fine looking matchups. I mean, I still think they're absolutely Super Bowl contenders still. This is in no way mean the end of
100%.
Like they could absolutely win it this year. Probably more likely than it would have been going into last year. In fact, no, undoubtedly, it's not even close to compare the two.
For sure.
So still in a much better position than they were a year ago, and they went and won the Super Bowl a year ago. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully, just that intangible team mentality side of things that you can't necessarily measure is something that's going to kick it up a notch, and the execution will follow.
I don't know if you guys saw the Sunday Night Football. They showed the records and everyone who predicted who was going to win the game. Anyways, Drew Brees was the only one who took the Saints, but his record was 9-6, and I thought that was his score prediction. So I thought he predicted a 9-6 win. I was like, oh, well, who is this guy? This is like some Illuminati, New Orleans, what's going on there? I was like, okay. Picking the win was still pretty cool, but I was like, oh my goodness, if you landed on 9 points and got the right and had the winner. But anyways,
Breeze was 10-5 though. Breeze was 10-5 Scotty.
Oh, okay. All right.
But still, that's hilarious. I love that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. You see the numbers and I
was like, oh my God.
Yeah. So
sorry.
Yeah, I need a Chubb touchdown. By the way. It's kind of nice to have actual Monday Night Football on while we're doing the podcast.
I mean, you simply hate to see the COVID stuff, but a 5:00 football game between teams that are battling is kind of cool. And looks pretty sweet in Cleveland right now, actually. Donovan Peoples-Jones, Michigan, big catch.
And before we completely move on, I do want to get to a couple comments. Corey Hall is bringing the fire. He's been a great listener for us over the last few weeks. Corey, shout out to you, my dude. I like the heat you're bringing in here. He's talking about. Here we go. We're gonna lose all of Godwin's blocking. Miller just a 9 route and Darden a rookie man. So, yeah, I mean Godwin's blocking is the other thing that's so incredibly unique. So I know we talked about how important he is, but his blocking is essential. It actually affects the running game big time when you watch a lot of these clips. So we'll have to make up for that elsewhere. And Corey Hall was also talking about Alex Kappa. Says Kappa is ass and Stinney is better. I like Aaron Stinney. He's a very serviceable guard backup. But he's hurt. Last I checked, Stinney was pretty banged up anyway. So I don't think they're going to pull Kappa. Kappa's had a good year. He's actually had a really great career over in Tampa so far, overachieving expectations, and he's going to get paid this offseason. So let's just hope it's a wake-up call for that O-line as much as anyone else, and we'll see what's to come. We talked about it being a crazy day yesterday in the NFL. Anything you guys want to hit on first or discuss? I'm going to kind of open it up to you. I've been exhausted, guys, dealing with this last 24 hours of football and what's transpired in real life, in my betting account, in my fantasy matchup. So I'd love to just take a back seat, watch some football, and let you guys tell me what you want to talk about.
Yeah, it was nice at 1:00 to actually get to the games after 4 or 5 days of who's going to play, when are they going to play, are there going to be replacement players? You know what I mean? Saturday we got a pretty entertaining game with the Patriots at the Colts, right? It turned out to be pretty close. That was good. But seriously, up until 1:00, I was kind of like, all right, let's see who actually plays and let's see what happens. And then, some weird ones. The Jets went up big on Miami. Miami pulled out another win. That was nice. Obviously, you see the Cardinals get dismantled at Detroit. It must just such a classic. The Rams kind of beat them twice, sort of thing, with the late Monday night and then going across the country, all that, right? And then the Bills, I thought, looked only okay against just a terrible Panthers team.
I heard the score was even not reflective of how close.
No, it wasn't. They won by 17 and actually covered every number, but they scored on a 4th and 2 with 2 minutes left to go up 17. So they weren't ever in trouble, I would say, because Carolina's so inept. Like they scored 2 touchdowns because of 2 short fields. But yeah, man, just a strange day. And this is what happens near the end of the season, right? Just some random things start to happen. Injuries are creeping up, and obviously with all the stuff going around with COVID, I mean, I guess we should have known chaos was going to happen.
And you mentioned the Dolphins. They're 7-7 now. They started the year, I think, 1-7 or 1-6.
Yeah,
they're just reeling them off.
They beat New England.
Sorry, Chubster, baby.
I'm gonna play behind. I think I know what's about to happen here.
No, it's a flag.
No. Oh no.
I'm heavily invested on a Chubb touchdown tonight. Sorry.
Okay.
Come on. Point it. Fuck.
Is he coming back? All right.
Yeah, he's not celebrating.
I'll keep talking.
Well, I'll jump in. The thing that I was like I had the most fun with like this weekend of football was on Thursday. And like we do these podcasts on Mondays, and Thursday was like, to me, the best game of the week. Even though it ended in overtime, and we are in agreement, but I think it's a bigger deal to you guys how bad the overtime is in the NFL. But I had a great time watching that game.
I know me and Bo were in a little fight because all I was whining about was the overtime because I wanted to see Herbert in that offense once more, and Bo was like, "Dude, it was still a great game. Like,
it's an awesome game.
Yeah.
It's not like this is a new overtime rule," and I just hated it because I'm cheering for the Chargers there big time. That's my AFC squad. I've proclaimed.
Dude, if the Chargers win that game, they have the same record as the Chiefs, and they swept the Chiefs, so obviously they have the tiebreaker in that division. And then they're tied with New England New England lost 2 days later, but they would be tied for the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Just like that. But they just got Mahomes like big time, right? They just you just big boyed him down the field, tied up at the end of regulation. Get the ball in
Mahomes and Kelsey. They got Kelsey more than anything to me.
Yeah,
like Kelsey had that vintage, like the guy who we thought he was going to be at the start of the season came out, which is terrifying if you're a Bucs fan, because I think that's your number 1 team. You're like, I don't know how we stop that team when they get rolling.
Who's that you're talking about? You're talking about Levante David's son, Kelsey?
yeah. Travis Kelsey.
Yeah. Of course, Kelsey does that the week I give up on betting his over receiving props because I'm like, okay, he's not having that bounce back game. I gotta pull the plug on this. Sure enough.
But obviously, Bo, you're right. That was an awesome game. Great primetime game, standalone. That was awesome. KC looks juggernaut-ish, I would say. Like they're kind of the engines are warming up, that's for sure.
They're not operating on all cylinders. They're not operating on all cylinders, and that's the scariest part because they're still churning out these wins and at the top of the AFC now, and they can claim they've like overcome this turmoil and adversity, right? So they've got all those checked off, and it feels like they're not even, that offense at least isn't even rolling aside from like Kelsey's big day. Like, so.
Oh my God, is he gonna kick a field goal here?
They're kind of the team with the most like, they almost have that Super Bowl narrative already planned out, right? Like if of all the teams, if you're just like, who's going to win this just based on narrative? Like, I guess the Packers are there. They can say our quarterback went through this whole thing in the off season. Then he gets into the season. He's on fire. He pretends he got vaccinated, doesn't play for a game, comes back, doesn't miss a beat. But yeah, like I think it's the Packers, it's the Chiefs. I think New England has something to prove. And like, to me, if I was an AFC team, they're actually the scariest one because they can just shut down a part of the game for you, just playing the clock and the defense that they play as well too. So it's tough to see. It's tough to see how the AFC is going to shake out with the way that it is. And after all of that, I think I said this to you, Colin, or privately. I actually think the Ravens, if they were completely healthy, that's probably the best team in the league, if definitely the best team in the AFC.
I'm just mad at the Ravens right now. I can't believe
they're so unhealthy.
They're so unhealthy. That's the thing, is like they don't have like 3 stars on both sides of the ball every game, and they won't have them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ravens are I mean, but they could also be like their record could be. We've said it. They could be so bad. They've like these other games.
They could easily be like a top 10 draft pick team right now.
But yeah, like teams who are super injured, it's awfully difficult in this league to recover from that. You got to get lucky to some extent.
And it's just like you just lose, like it's a year of Lamar that's just gone, right? Like it's basically you could have won the Super Bowl with this guy this year if you had some better injury luck, and you just don't have it. And next year is next year. You have no idea what it's going to be.
Now, in terms like the AFC is wild. In terms of the Patriots, like we've talked about,
both of them are wild, man.
They're both kind of going crazy right now, but
the whole league.
Yeah.
But what I'm gonna like, I'm not a believer in the Patriots like you, despite the record. I know a lot of like really smart people are, yourself included. I don't know, and I felt that way before that Colts game. I just think offensively, there's just too much to be desired there, and you can't really game manage a rookie quarterback. Like, yes, the defense is really good, but there are other good defenses in the NFL, and when you line up against a stud I just think offense wins in the end generally, and I think if they don't have more, like their ground and pound game is good, but I'm just not sold enough on the offense. They got the coaching, they got the D. I'm just not a believer that the Pats are on that level.
Yeah, and like I think they need to play their games at home, where I think it would really help if they played playoff games at home. Hey, they've been awesome. Like for the record, like relative to expectations, they don't have that many weapons on offense, really. They have a rookie quarterback, all this. They've had a great season and, could easily win a game or two in the playoffs here. I'm not ruling that out. But I don't know. Are they better than any of those top 4 or 5 NFC teams? I would say no. Are they better than the Chiefs or the Chargers? I mean, they beat the Chargers, right? So
I think they're better. I think they're just because of how, and the Chargers have looked better on. I'll give them their props. The Chargers have looked better stopping the run the past 2 weeks. But I think the Pats, the way that they play football is just not conducive to the Chargers getting going. So I could see just absolutely frustrating a guy like Herbert down the stretch of games.
The first quarter will determine what happens in those playoff games that the Patriots are involved in, right? Like, do they get out to
they can't start the way they did against the Colts this week.
Exactly. And like they did make a valiant comeback and all that, but like you never really thought they were going to win the game, right?
No.
But if they're up 10-0 and there's 12 minutes left, even in the second quarter or something like that, you start to feel like, all right, we got to get going now. And they're not exactly a team to do that against, right? So there's so many teams where the starts of the games will really dictate what they can do and how they can thrive in the playoffs, right? I just can't wait to I can't wait to watch, man. I can't wait to watch. Right now, the wild card teams in the AFC are the Colts, the Chargers, and the Bills. They're good. Like they're all good teams. I don't think the Bills are scary, but I don't think they're bad, right? I think the Colts are playing as well as anyone in the league right now. Colts in the AFC and Niners in the NFC are kind of mirroring each other, I feel like.
Yeah, Colts are a scary team. I don't think you want to face off with them in the playoffs right now with the best running back in the game, super talented defense. And, Carson Wentz, I know this is like the anti-Wentz podcast. You got to give him some credit, man. He hasn't turned the ball over. He's playing smart football.
He's played great. He wasn't good
he's played
on Saturday. But he's had a great season. Like credit where it's due, 100%.
Yeah,
tough pill to swallow for me. I can't. I still don't like watching Carson Wentz play. Even in
I like watching him play.
Yeah,
we're all on that island together, though, Bo. We're collectively gonna eat that criticism or give it to ourselves, right? And I mean, my boy Jonathan Taylor, Bo. I thought he was gonna lead the league in rushing as a rookie, but finally Frank Reich is like giving him the reins. So like I thought, I say finally, he's in his second year, but last year I just thought he was that guy right away. And
awesome.
I loved watching him play.
He's insane. It's a lot like Chubb, really, like the way he just kind of closes games. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. But Chubb just more looks like a backyard, like I'm a thick dude. Like he's going to be a thick uncle at the barbecue one day. Like, whereas Jonathan Taylor looks like the dude who's delivering the meat to the barbecue because he had to retire from football but wanted to keep lugging around meat and heavy things. Like, he's just a specimen, man. I love everything about that guy. How about what was I gonna say? How about Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions knocking off the Arizona Cardinals, who have not looked good 2 weeks in a row. We discussed that we weren't. I recall mentioning on this very podcast that I was not really sold on the Cards, and I wasn't near as scared of them as I was the Rams or the Packers, even when the Cards were sitting at the top of the NFC. And they're starting to really kind of maybe show their true colors a bit. I mean, it just seems. I know, Bo, you've been critical of Kingsbury a fair bit, and everyone was all on him this year. But maybe everyone needs to slow down on the Cardinals' love, because they certainly have shown some vulnerability. And Dan Campbell and a hungry Lions team who's playing physical and playing hard took advantage of it.
Yeah, the thing about the Cardinals is that if you were watching them for the past few weeks, their defense was actually ahead of where their offense was. And their defense was really good, and they kind of came back to earth against the Lions of all teams. Field position was a part of that with all the turnovers that Kyler put out there and the fumbles and everything that went on in that game. But this Lions team, I guess it's kind of fun for if you were on the right side of betting that one. That would have been a really fun Sunday because you just didn't really have to worry about that game.
Never in doubt, man. Never in doubt.
Do you guys think anyone had a Lions Saints money line parlay?
Someone had to.
Probably some sickos out there. Yeah.
So you had it, Scott?
No, I definitely did not. I kind of wrote off that game from a betting perspective. I just didn't really want to. I really think in hindsight I could have gotten there on the Lions. It's just such a terrible spot for Arizona. But then it's like, and because Detroit, so many guys didn't play against Denver the week before, it was almost like they were probably pretty fresh going into this game. You know what I mean? Because like that game against the Broncos was a write-off. But anyways, didn't think about betting it. Didn't have anyone. But yeah, what a win. Great for them. If I could, did you guys watch much of Broncos Bengals?
I watched a good chunk of that game. Yeah.
Man, when you're a coach and you're coaching scared, I feel like it just permeates through the whole team.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You know what I mean? Like the end of the first half.
Isn't that old school coaching philosophy to coach scared? Like, isn't that just what traditionalists do? Isn't that the whole debate of analytics, like versus like Brandon Staley versus Vic Fangio, or like whatever the scenario is, you know?
It's like if you don't trust, like, and obviously prayers up to Teddy, he got absolutely dismantled. I think it turned out that he just had a concussion, so that's good. Because he was out in the air, right? But it's 3-3. The Broncos get the ball with like 2.5 minutes left in the first half, and all they're trying to do is kick a field goal, right? Like literally all they're trying to do. They miss a 52-yarder because even good kickers miss. 9 seconds left. Burrow hits Boyd up the middle of the field, and then the Cincinnati kicker bangs in one from 58 yards. And like in a low-scoring game, that 6-point swing is such a huge deal, right? And because they weren't even trying to score, they didn't take any shots to the end zone. And then if your plan is to settle for a 52-yard kick, I don't care how good your kicker is. That's just not smart. It's just not good football, right? And that's exactly what happened. And anyway, they deserved to lose the game. Burrow did just enough. Chase did almost nothing. Tyler Boyd had a good game, at least in spots. But the Broncos, I think they get to 8-6 if they win that game. And now they're right in that middle with everyone in the AFC. It's just, oh, man, it was such a painful watch. And, yes, I had the Broncos, in case anyone couldn't tell.
Oh, well done. Not the bet, but the way that you slid that in there at the end. That
was fantastic. God. Anyway, let's talk about something else.
All right, let's talk about something else as it relates to Scott Capron, because you have been one of the most outspoken people, I would argue, on the planet when it comes to Urban Meyer. When he was hired during our AFC South preview podcast, you designated a segment just to forecast your grim outlook for Urban Meyer as an NFL coach. I was kind of like, whoa, slow the brakes. What are you, a Michigan fan? Like, give the guy a chance.
I think I even said he's going to burn hot at the start, and
Yeah,
he's going to be out quick, but he's going to be somewhat successful at the front end.
you did endorse it much more than me. I was kind of playing the like whatever, but I wasn't like pushing back. I was just trying to provide some discourse. Anyway, Scott, a lot has happened since then. We've talked about it leading up to it. We've had a couple, I want to call them viral sound clips, but they haven't gone viral yet, but they should, because you've been passionate against Urban Meyer. And I just want you to kind of update our listeners on your thoughts as it relates to the Jacksonville Jaguars and Urban Meyer.
I mean, I just, you really can't emphasize it enough when someone is just an out and out asshole, and it's just hard to work with, right? There was, his offense, a lot of it was predicated on, having better guys than the other team, right? He was a coach at Florida and Ohio State, for Christ's sake. Like, guess what? That's going to happen more often than not. He's a complete narcissist, lording over players as if he's like the czar of this team and all this. And like, that was never going to work in the NFL. But honestly, my main thing was he was notorious for like not being able to eat after losing. There's no way he was just going to be okay with like a 2-4 start or anything. Like, that would have been the end of the world. Like, that would have been the end of the world. Imagine being 2-10. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand what he thought was going to happen. He said to someone, every week is like going up against an SEC team, like referring to how tough the NFL was. Yeah, man. Like, did you really think you were just going to bowl people over? Like the lack of awareness and just the arrogance on top of just the fact that he's a deplorable human being. Like, that was more of the concern for him actually being a successful coach. Like, I honestly, that's what I think. And he proved all of his haters and doubters completely right. It wasn't hard to see. He didn't last a season, guys. He didn't last a season. Bobby Petrino at least left on his own in the middle of the night like a real stand-up guy. You know what I mean? He got let go because he kicked the kicker.
Yeah. Fired with cause.
Who
He's not even going to get paid.
Kicking the kicker. Did you see the tweet about it being like a Seinfeld episode? They were comparing it to
dude,
it was so good.
We're obviously a few days behind, but every meme that came out, like Urban Meyer to his kicker, and it shows the video of Antonio Brown, like super kicking the punter from the Steelers. Remember that one was unbelievable? Or, Shawn Michaels, like HBK, just giving sweet chin music to someone in the back. Like, I'm not lying. I was on Twitter for an hour watching Urban Meyer. Like, I couldn't have, but anything involving a kick that's ever happened, and they threw like Urban Meyer's name or face on it, I was here for it, man. It was awesome.
The funniest part of it all is that it happened on Scott's birthday, right?
Yeah. And I told my wife, and she knew. She was like, "This is kind of like awesome for you, isn't it?" Yeah, it was pretty funny. But
that's awesome.
I sent you an email to your work email just to see what your out of office notification was, and I thought it would be like, "Oh, it's my birthday," but it was like Scott's away scrolling Twitter today.
Yeah, I mean, big birthday guy. Got the balloons. I actually have every combination of balloon number ready just in case. So, I was ready to go there. But like whatever. Victory lap on Meyer. He's the worst. Of course this happened. And just a bad dude and a bad coach. Like a bad actual football coach. You're not just recruiting against little brothers anymore. So sorry.
Yep, you called it. You deserve the flowers on that one, buddy. You and Bo, yeah, I know you were right there alongside Cap, just maybe not as outspoken about it.
But to be fair, I've watched almost all of Houston Jacksonville because I might have had that game as well. They're bad, and Lawrence looks awful. I know we have limited time here, but oh my goodness, is that a tough scene? Like, so he was coaching a train wreck, but he should have realized that it was a train wreck and kind of been okay with it and just
enjoyed the job security that comes along with having the number one pick.
Yeah, that would be something you could do. I don't know, just
still play your one good player, James Robinson, and not bench him. That would At least they did that this weekend. But unlike Scott, I was not willing to subject myself to a Jacksonville Jaguars game.
I'm such
But
an idiot, man.
I ended up, being subjected to torture anyway with the Sunday Night Football 9-0 loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the hands of division rival New Orleans Saints. The one thing to leave you with, if you weren't already aware, two-time Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, both years, 2002 and 2020, when they won those Super Bowls, they had been swept by the Saints in the regular season. So who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a positive omen to come.
Hey, we like it. We like those little tidbits, man. Let's see it.
There we go. All right. Well, Bo, so great to have you back. Shout out to Dion Bear Yard in the building, or as you said to us when you announced it, our newest subscriber. So be like Dion and check us out on YouTube at Bucs Banter. Please subscribe. Helps us out. You can see at Captain Ron, at Bono's Ball, and at Bucs Banter on Twitter. We're going to go. It looks like did he miss that kick?
No, they got a time. I think they got a timeout in.
Oh, they iced him.
He made it.
He made it, but I don't know if it's going to count.
Raiders are going to win this game. Anyway, we got more football doubleheader on Monday. So that's one positive of this Monday. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We appreciate it as always. And we'll catch you next week to talk some Buccaneers and NFL football.